Hello, World Wide Web. I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair. Anymore, it just wouldn't be the horror genre without the zombie movie subgenre. There's just something special about watching undead creatures feast on the brains of the brainless. One of the most classic monsters in horror cinema, the mindless minions of old have completely given way to the living dead Romero zombie, yet they still have a way about killing people while slowly plodding along with a vacant look in their face, so naturally, it doesn't take much of a stretch for zombies to fit into the horror comedy cross-genre. One such example of this is Zombie Dearest, which won esteem as the best horror feature of the 2010 Atlanta Underground Film Festival. Zombie Dearest merges the zany life of a comedy writer trying to get his big break along with the shock and horror you'd expect when dead people start walking around. However, I'm not sure exactly what kind of competition it had at said festival. Nevertheless, let's dig this up and see if it hasn't rotted too badly. As the film opens up, we're introduced to Gus, played by David Kemker, whom also happens to be the writer and co-director of this movie, talking about how his life is utter shit, but hey, his wife's best friend seems nice.
Got your birthday present.
It's a little early.
It's at my place.
And that was it. That's when I crossed the line. What am I doing? What am I doing?
You're about to fuck Gwen, and as this is the opening scene of a movie, I'm pretty sure it's not going to go as planned.
And unpaid bills, and open mic nights, and bad clothes, and a refrigerator that left a puddle in the middle of the floor.
I love the fresh scent of gain.
Surprise!
Hello, baby. Come sit on my face. I'll tell you a few lies.
Please tell me the zombies come out
The
soon.
world's the same.
And of course, things don't go as planned. Yeah, his wife set this up with Gwen as a big birthday surprise! Oh, how zany. As it turns out, this highly contrived setup that only could possibly work to bring Gus to that place if he were interested in extramarital sex has greatly upset Deborah with this turn of events.
But as far as I'm concerned, you cheated on me today.
Yeah, never mind even if he had left the room calm and fully clothed, he still would have been following Gwen's advances. This was probably the stupidest birthday surprise party setup unless you were actually trying to prove he was unfaithful.
You wanting to fuck Gwen is one thing. But how dare you have fun? How dare you make her laugh?
Oh, it's not the fair part she's upset with at all. It was the dick puppet. Just not for the same reasons I was. She gets in the car and drives away, poetically leaving Gus in the rearview mirror as she moves on with him no longer part of her life. And by that I mean for the next 5 minutes or so. This big breakup scene was really necessary. Deborah stops by at Uncle Pete's place out in the rural community she grew up in, and it turns out the very house her family owned, they still do, and it's just waiting for her to move back in and renovate. Walking back in, it doesn't take long for her to reminisce about the days when her mother would take an apple pie from the oven with her bare hands, setting it up on the windowsill to cool. I'm not impressed. All these pleasant memories come at a price, however. And she didn't think to remember this maybe before moving back in here? Now terrified at her selective Alzheimer's, she rushes out to escape, but literally runs into Gus, and now she must not remember anything about that epic breakup from 5 minutes earlier in the film, as she instead bargains with him that she gets to work while he has to fix the house up and take care of the kids when they get to having them.
And in your spare time, somewhere down the line, you're gonna write that one thing you always wanted to write.
That movie, Zombie Dearest, there's a lot of shit that just doesn't make sense even in the first 10 minutes. You really got to work on that. The following day, she heads over to Shithead's Insurance to meet up with her new boss and old boyfriend, Donnie, played by John Jarvis.
I gotta come out of the Dark Ages. I have got to modernize.
Oh, Donnie, when we talked on the phone, I thought...
What?
I thought I was going to get an iPad out of this. You really expect me to lower myself to using a mouse, you cheap bastard? He sweetens the deal, explaining that she would not so much be working for him as working with him as a partner in the company, even though neither of them appear particularly competent.
You get high speed here?
Be careful with that term, high speed. AT&T has taught me just how god-awful slow high speed can get. A short montage later, and we're given a brief view into the couple's lives as they do what they can to deal with the vermin living in their home. Intense, terrifying horror! The worst is yet to come, as this stunt has given them plumbing issues, causing trouble with their septic tank. To make matters worse, Gus takes offense with some of the things the plumber has to say.
I don't want you to think I'm some kind of retard hater.
Mr. Raider.
Here we go.
Don't you see, when you use words like retard...
Gus? For your information, pal, I happen to have several retard friends.
Well, of course you do.
I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how to make a joke out of this for a comedic review. Who the hell thought this would be a good idea for a comedy horror? Gus takes more offense than I do at the plumber's lines, which he wrote. Anyway, this is a rural community, so losing their only help has now left them on their own to dig up and repair the septic tank.
I don't seem to remember saying I'd do this for you.
Damn, is he suffering from selective Alzheimer's too? Must be, as he's already forgotten that he has a perfectly good shovel and continues digging by hand.
I just wish I had someone help.
Gus's reaction here is about what you'd expect from finding a buried man rising from your excavation, but wait a minute. Okay, he's our zombie, but his makeup is crap for one thing, and he was buried, 30 years ago? His remains should be skeletal by now. And on top of that, why did they bury him over the septic tank? Like no one was ever going to need to access that again in the future. Anyway, after he's done panicking, he does take the opportunity to chat a bit with Quinto.
No. Take the dirt out of the hole. No. Put it on the pile. Put it over there. Good.
Yeah, it just takes a minute or two before he shifts from being horrified to opportunistic.
Yeah! Yeah!
And seconds to shift to batshit insane. This gives us another mini montage where we learn that Donnie truly appreciates all the assets Deborah brings to the company, and Gus doesn't use the zombie as an assistant, but rather as a slave while he instead spends time working on his even more lifeless stand-up routine.
I happen to know that in a past life I was a caveman. Oh yes, caveman. I was a great caveman because it was my idea to move into the caves. See, that's where you laugh when I pause there.
Okay.
See? No monster.
Personally, I side with Quinto in this scene, as these aren't fun bad jokes or crass bad jokes, but fucking boring bad jokes.
Caveman was successful, not so successful out in the open, man.
His wife comes home, but lucky for him, her selective memory doesn't remember that body she remembered being dumped in that hole she doesn't remember remembering. However, when he pitches the idea to her that he has this great idea to revive his dead attempt at stand-up comedy, she shoots it down.
Just stick with the game plan. You take care of the home front, I'll take care of the finances, okay?
And for some reason, she doesn't realize his jokes are utterly atrocious, unless this is the only thing in their relationship that she decides to sugarcoat. But his comedy has a deep poetic meaning, just like any bland, unlikable aspect of an independent film.
The values that ensured the caveman's survival. Honesty, loyalty, a real selflessness. These days, they're the values of a loser.
So that's why you dishonestly and selfishly were unloyal. You're a winner!
What was that?
Coyote.
coyote? God, I had no idea.
Yeah, she doesn't remember not remembering from her childhood that coyotes were not in the area if she could remember what she remembers. The next day, Gus is back to working on his terrible routine with his undead audience.
The word for ugly was also used for hideous, frightening, and butthole. Unless you were actually describing the ugliness or frightening nature of a butthole, but we never did that. We were cavemen.
Oh, okay, I can't say any more about how bad the jokes are, but seriously, why the hell does he change his voice to fake comedian while saying them? Deborah comes out and finally notices something a bit strange.
I just thought Mr. Quinto might like a glass of...
No. Back to work! Back to work!
Yet somehow she still doesn't put two and two together about it being the same guy she remembered earlier being buried there. In fact, she doesn't remember that at all for the remainder of the movie. She argues with Gus for a bit over getting rid of him on the spot, but we can count on him to talk down to her and call her a racist for not wanting to keep the rotting worker. But then again, he is pretty cheap labor, as all he requests for payment is stealing chickens from Uncle Pete's coop. After a short transition scene with several characters gathered around a pool party, for someone, it's back to trying to get deep moral messages in every other scene of this movie while trying to be comedic.
He was a 5-year-old kid, Gus.
I don't care if you're going to eat my dessert. You're going to have to do it while thinking about wasp larvae.
Obviously, the moral of this scene is don't serve Jell-O shots at children's parties. Having hit Quinto, this highly upsets Deborah.
Ever want to see him again, Gus.
You won't.
No, ever!
I promise.
How dare that selfish bastard dent my hood with his skull? Did she already forget that she hit him, or what? But word still comes around, as Uncle Pete has finally taken the time to visit their home, somehow recognizes the chicken bones in the zombie turd as specifically the ones he's been keeping, and fills Gus in on the backstory.
Aunt Ellen took a guy on when we put the septic in, 30 years ago? The guy started driving her nuts. We had to get rid of him.
So that's the explanation for why Quinto was killed in the first place. It was far too much trouble to fire him and send him home, so hey, just murder him. And the septic tank hole was already dug, so that would be much easier than finding somewhere else to dump the body in this sparsely populated area. Now that all that's taken care of, Gus sets up a wonderful romantic evening for Deborah, which leads to one of the most awkward play sex scenes I've seen. Romantic. Predictably, Quinto shows up, as evidently they always leave their doors open while there's zombies in the neighborhood, and Gus is inept enough to let a lethargic dead man get the jump on him.
Oh yeah. Ow.
Way to go back on your word, Gus. You said you weren't going to feed him. He finally confesses to her that he dug him up out of the yard. She still doesn't connect it to the corpse she saw when she was a child, but there's something much more important to discuss.
I had my hand on his cock, okay?
Then it's true.
What?
Something my Aunt Ellen taught me. Witch's wart and demon's mole, you get one wish on a dead man's pole.
Are you fucking kidding me? Cock magic? Dead cock magic? Dead cock genie wish magic? That's your explanation for the zombie in this movie? Well, it still doesn't explain how he didn't decompose for 30 years. Distraught, she leaves Gus, heading to Uncle Pete's. However, Pete's drunken, pantsless activities lead her to instead take solace in the arms of Donnie!
So the guy, the one who's coming between you, what's Gus gonna do about it?
Gus is fine with it. Oh, he's more than fine. He's all for it.
Sounds to me like he's having an affair.
Sounds to me like you know how to take advantage of someone while they're vulnerable. As he's alone, that doesn't mean we get a break from his incredible comedy.
I'll tell you, I saw it coming, folks. I saw it coming back in Caveman days, when guys like me were in charge. We took that nerd, put him out on an ice floe, set him adrift, remove him from the gene pool, right? Right? Makes sense, huh?
Yeah, if you want to live in a dystopian society of brain-dead nitwits. Not learning a damn thing from before, Gus brings Quinto back to do some more work and shows us the best way to deal with unruly workers is to beat the fuck out of them until they stop complaining. Sure, that works now, but once the zombies unionize, fun's over. Donnie drives Deborah home, even though Deborah brought her own car earlier, and is shocked to find that it is the day laborer who has come between her and Gus, and not himself.
You're my friend. I don't have those...
Friend. Friend. Why do I always have to be the friend?
Geez, I make you a partner right off the street, gawk at your ass, and take advantage of you. That's at least fuck buddy material. Deborah and Gus go inside to have yet another uncomfortable conversation, but actually this is probably my favorite scene in the movie, as it finally has some comedic aspects that work, as the rehashed argument in the foreground is completely unimportant, allowing the viewer to concentrate on the much better Donnie versus zombie action going on in the background. Donnie calmly drives away as Quinto pursues him, but soon enough, Reverend Harper shows up with grave news.
Donnie Schulteis is dead.
What?
What happened?
Apparently, he lost control of his car. The police say that he must have been doing at least 160 miles per hour.
Kind of overkill for outrunning a zombie.
He left everything to his partner. You.
Oh my God.
Oh goody, the whole business that he runs out of his garage! Clearly worth at least $2,000.
Mysterious ways, Deborah. Very mysterious.
You got yours too. I got my farmhand and you got your millions.
Not only was Donnie clearly not worth millions, what dead man's dick was Deborah detaining? But hey, now they're both where they want to be in life, so after a zombie boner joke, they work together to re-kill Quinto and bury him back in the hole they got him from in the first place. Lazy killers, I swear. Unsurprisingly, he manages to get back up quite easily from being buried 1 foot deep, and Deborah is at least smart enough to realize how you're supposed to kill a zombie.
I'm gonna blow his fucking head off.
Unless you're going by Return of the Living Dead rules, in which case that won't work. But then again, that movie didn't have dead dick magic.
Alright. I'm not cleaning it up.
Fucking lazy killers, jeez. She heads down to the dark, ultra-horror set that we never saw in any other part of this movie, despite how awesome it looks, and tracks the walking corpse down, but unfortunately her husband stops her from taking him out, instead hanging him up in a silo. Which he obviously is going to escape from, so they may as well have skipped that whole bundle of scenes and had Quinto unearthing himself slightly later actually be a little surprising. As he prepares for his first stand-up show, rehearsing the same shitty jokes we've already heard, Deborah finally remembers that zombie bites generally aren't good for you, but Gus talks her into allowing him to give his performance tonight as his final request. Yeah, that's just what I'd want to do with my last moments on this world. Make an ass out of myself in front of everyone in town. Everyone, including his former employee Quinto, which I guess would be caught dead watching Gus's catastrophe of a stand-up routine.
I'll never forget the last time I saw out in the open, man. He was, as you might imagine, out in the open, running just as fast as his 1 3/4 legs could carry him.
As he succumbs to the effects of the zombie bites, we see that, yes, somehow these jokes can get even worse, but fortunately Quinto provides him with some dead laughter and is ironically the most lively audience member.
What is wrong with him?
He's been bitten by a zombie.
Where was the joke?
That was so funny.
If they're that easily amused, then his bland caveman jokes should have been killing. Now that the show's over, Deborah gets set to rush him to the hospital. However, he has something very important to tell her.
Ron.
Does she listen to him, though? Meh, eventually. Thus, we get our climactic zombie chase scene where she rushes upstairs to escape into the dead end, and Pete shows off some of the worst prosthetic intestines I've seen. But fear not, for Deborah has a plan. But don't ask me what the hell that's supposed to accomplish. The zombies don't seem to care, as they find her in the closet without much difficulty. But then...
I wish this never happened!
It's the dead dick magic trick! She rewinds the entire movie back to the night Gus cheated on her, changing out the thong for a pair of briefs.
Okay, Gus.
Though wouldn't that mean that he'd still be following the steps intent on cheating on his wife, except this time with a transvestite? Yeah, now his life just goes back to that monotonous hell. Great ending! Yeah, well, that was Zombie Dearest, and I guess it's good film festival material? The plot is pretty damn contrived, and the motivations of the characters appear to change on a whim. I mean, Deborah's arguments with Gus only seem to last for the scene they're in. By the time the camera angle changes, she's forgotten all about the affair, the dead body, where she parked her car. This wouldn't be so bad if even at the scene-by-scene basis this film weren't so dull on top of it. The zombie aspect is very underutilized, and the stand-up routine is painful to watch. Some attempts at having a worthwhile message are made, but it's nothing we haven't seen in plenty of other stories, and neither the horror nor comedic elements really work to enhance them. However, for having such a film school feeling to nearly every aspect, the direction and acting are actually done rather well. The drama is shot like drama, the horror sets are not bad, and despite the lack of a working hippocampus on any of them, the characters do give a good range of emotions. Just a small tip of the scale in the right direction, and this could have been considered a hidden gem. As it stands, though, it's just marginal, fucking up a good opportunity with 3 magical peni out of 5. It's not one of those movies that I'd say I'd regret watching, but I'd also not really care for seeing it again. Thank you all for watching. I've been Dr. Shado, and remember, it was only a movie. Don't go around grabbing corpse genitals. The police won't sympathize.
I'ma get myself a little van conversion. Head out on a roll. Take a little heaven, take a lot of hell to lighten this heavy load. Park my van by the side of a lake, underneath the shiny summer stars, far away from the sturm and the dram of the city and the gourmet coffee bars. I'm gonna head out and find my drain before they lay me down, because it comes too fast and it comes too late when we're 6 feet under the ground. Head out and find my drain before they lay me down, because it comes too fast and it comes too late when we're 6 feet under the ground. I'm gonna get myself a little long-legged honey.
Why am I not crying?
Because he was a bit of a dick?